Thank you for joining me for Purposeful Inspiration. I must say thank you for watching my videos. If this is your first one or not, thanks. I do appreciate you. So today you and I will be looking at the topic, your enemies will hear. What is this talking about? This is just simply saying that your enemies will hear the good news. They will hear of what God has been doing in your life. So this is based on Joshua 9 verse 1, and it reads, "And it came to pass when all the kings who were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and in all the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord." And our focus word is heard. So when all the kings heard about it. So heard about what? So this was, Joshua and the children of Israel had just left out of the wilderness, and we would know, or if you don't know, the children of Israel spent 40 years in that wilderness because of disobedience. So now it was time to inherit the promised land that God had promised to Abraham, their forefather. And, they're moving in. So they had to cross the River Jordan to enter that section of the promised land. Once they crossed River Jordan, they were now before a city called Jericho. And Jericho is a famous story that I was taught from a child, that the people of Israel marched around Jericho because it had enormous walls. So God told them to march around Jericho once per day for 6 days, and they did march around Jericho once per day for 6 days, and they did this quietly. And on the 7th day, they were supposed to march 7 times, and they marched 7 times. And on the 7th time, they made a great big shout, and the walls, the big enormous walls that were protecting the city, fell down. And when the walls fell down, now they went in and they killed everybody and everything. They destroyed everything. They burnt down the city to the ground. And that was the commandment of God. God said to them that when you enter the promised land, you're supposed to get rid of the people who are there, because they will pull you away from me. So they destroyed everybody in Jericho, and they took the king. After they killed him, they buried him under heaps of stones right in front of the city, right at the city gate. They buried the king under some stones. And then, after they crossed the river, they fought Jericho. They came up against the next city called Ai. So Ai was a little difficult because there was some issue going on inside Israel's camp at the time. So the first time they went up against Ai, they lost. But the second time, they lured the warriors out of the city, and when they were at a good enough distance chasing a group of Israelites, the remainder of the Israelites went in and they burnt down the city. They destroyed everybody, everything, just like how they did Jericho. So when the group of warriors who were now outside of their city, unable to protect it, saw that their city was being burnt down, they recognized that it was a trap. And the group of Israelites now that lured them out turned around and attacked them. So when they went back, they hung the king on a tree, killed him, of course. And at the end of the day, they took down his body and buried him under a heap of stone, right before the city gate. So these are victories, are accomplishments of the children of Israel. And I would say major victories, because first of all, you take down a city that has massive walls surrounding it for protection, and you enter. Then you defeat enemies that you previously lost to. So in Joshua 9, now we get a record that every other king that was in Canaanite, in the promised land, every other city heard about what was happening. And when we look at the word heard, look at the word heard, it means to hear of, to hear with attention or interest. And I personally love this next definition, to hear intelligently. And you hear intelligently, it's to publish, to report, and that is taken from BDBs and Strong's Concordances. So they heard of somebody who saw everything, reported to them what was happening. I'm just imagining, because in those days they did trade, so persons had to go back and forth from city to city to trade goods and to get buy and sell, basically. So I'm imagining these people, I go to trade with Jericho and I see what is happening with Jericho, and then the next set go, they're trading with Ai and they see what is happening and they quickly get out so that they're not destroyed. And there is someone at each city, at each site of destruction, who witnesses what is happening, and they don't keep it to themselves. They go and they tell the enemies of Israel. They go and they tell all the kings, and the Bible records that it's the kings in the hills and the kings in the valley, in the lowland, and the kings in the coastland. And it doesn't just say, it's the kings everywhere. It lists out the kings of all the types of people who are there. And it says it's the kings of the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. It's saying just about everybody who hated Israel at that time heard. A report was sent to them of what Israel did to Jericho and to Ai. And this is what I'm saying to you and to me, is that sometimes we won't even get the time to share our testimonies before people who don't like us hear about what God has done in our lives. We won't even get time. We will be saying in our head, how did he or she or they find out that I'm enrolled at university? Or how did they know that I graduated first class? How did they know that I bought my car? How did they know that I'm getting married? I don't see anybody in my my friendship circle who would possibly tell them. But there are just some levels to news, right? There are just some levels to the goodness of God in your life that your enemies will have to hear about it. And when it's not us who are bragging. People will just be placed strategically in our lives or in our environment when whatever is happening, when God is pouring out his blessings and his goodness on us and he's rewarding us and we're victorious, there will just be persons who are there who we do not see or who we do not recognize as being associates of our enemies, and they will just go back and they will bring a report to say, hey, you know what I just saw? It's not what I heard from somebody else, it's what I just saw for myself, that this person, your enemy, this God did this wonderful thing. So we won't need to brag and tell people, God is with me and God is doing all of these wonderful things in my life. No, our enemies will hear and recognize that the living God is on our side. Our enemies, before they even have time to stop and wonder what is happening, they will just automatically know that this is God's hand on our lives, that this is God who has been instrumental in blessing us, in helping us to overcome, in helping us to get victorious, in helping us to accomplish everything that we have set out for. Maybe it's the start of your new business, or it's just something that God has sent down for you. I don't know what it is, but I'm just telling you, you don't need to brag about what God is doing in your life. People will just see it, they will hear about it, they will know about it without you telling them, and they will recognize that God is on your side. And before they try to do anything, and even if they're going to try to do anything to attack you, to oppose you, to tear you down, they will still know that God is on your side without a doubt. So when they come up against you, they're not just fighting against you. They're fighting against God, and they will know without a doubt before they start to wage war against you that they're fighting against God and they're fighting against you, and they will, of course, lose. But the end of the day, don't worry, don't fret. We all have enemies. I don't know mine because I really don't pay attention to them, but we all have enemies, and they will all know that God is good. They will all know that God is with you. They will all know that God will fight for you, and they will see the victories that you have won, and they will see the accomplishments that you have gained. They will see you rising from glory to glory. They will see you excelling, and they will know that this is God. They will know. And if I remember correctly, in the book of Joshua, everybody in Canaan knew that God had promised the children of Israel the land of Canaan. They knew that they were living in a borrowed land. They knew that that was the promised land that God was giving to Israel. They knew it, but they still decided to fight against them. And I'm just saying to you, your enemies know that God is with you, and you need to know that God is with you, because just as how they defeated Jericho, which was impossible to enter once it was under lockdown, you will defeat that figurative Jericho in your life. And yes, you may lose the eye the first time, or that whatever struggle you're going through, you may have lost. But go again the second time with God, and you will not lose. And your enemies will hear of the victories that God has done for you. Your enemies will hear that God is on your side, and they will know that they already lost before they even try to come up against you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. God is on your side, and your enemy will hear that God is for you. Have a good day.